Hello and welcome to another episode of Cut the Money Gap. We're very excited to be sharing our first episode of 2021. It feels, I don't know about you, Omar or Brian, but it feels crazy that we're already in 2021 because there's a lot of polarized feelings about what 2020 was for us. It went painfully slow and ridiculously fast at the same time. And I'm struggling to make sense of this world, but here we are, and we're gonna make the most out of what we have here and now. How are you guys doing today? How are you feeling? Ready for an exciting episode ahead?
Absolutely. Happy New Year, everyone, and excited to be back and engaging with you guys and finding out how everybody did over the holidays.
Actually, I want to hear from Omar, but I have something to share after. How are you, Omar?
I am so excited to be starting this year off with you guys, my favorite peeps, and very excited about the value that we want to add. Happy New Year to everybody. And I can't wait to hear you, SEL. Please go ahead.
I have actually really exciting things to share today, but before I do that, I just received a message from Omar's mom, ironically, and I thought it was really cool. The message she shared. It's almost like a poem that she's forwarding, and I thought, let me start this episode by reading this out loud because it's very consistent with what I'm going to be talking about anyway, and it's a beautiful message to hear. So I'm going to be reading it right now, and it goes. Burley, the day started and it's already 6 in the evening. Burley arrived on Monday and it's already Friday. And the month is already over and the year is almost over. And already 40, 50, or 60 years of our lives have passed. And we realize that we lost our parents and our friends. And we realize it's too late to go back. So let's try, despite everything, to enjoy the remaining time. Let's keep looking for activities that we like. Let's put some color in our gray. Let's smile at the little things in life that put balm in our hearts. And despite everything, we must continue to enjoy with serenity this time we have left. Let's try to eliminate the afters. I'm doing it after, or I'll say it after, or I'll think about it after. We leave everything for later, like after is ours, because we don't understand is that afterwards the coffee gets cold and priorities change and the charm is broken and the health passes and the kids grow up and the parents get old and the promises are forgotten and the days become night and life ends, and it's often too late. So let's leave nothing for later because still waiting to see you later, you can lose the best moments, the best experiences, the best friends, and the best family. The day is today and the moment is now. So I thought I would start with that because the topic of Prepare today is that whole duality conflict between the now and the future. And there's actually a economic theory of self-control, which actually puts things in perspective about the fact that any decision at any point in your life boils down to, if you want to look at it as a game between the consequences of short-term impulses versus long-term self. So the short-term impulse versus the long-term patient self. And therefore, the economic theory of self-control actually suggests that at all times we are always dealing with a combative sort of attitudes, a dual personality, if you will, between the doer that's actually a short-term thinker and the planner that's a long-term thinker. So before I delve deeper into that, actually, let me explain it a little bit further because I'm interested in hearing from you your thoughts about what I shared and also how you categorize yourself between the planner and the doer. But the economic theory in that regards sees the doer as somebody who's ruled by intuitive and they have the experiential part of the brain, the part of the brain that's actually fast, instinctual and emotionally driven, which tends to be our right part of the brain, is the dominant part of the brain for the doer. Versus the planner has the left part of the brain more activated, and they're the ones who are driven by analytical, rational, slow and careful logical system. There's actually an amazing book about these two systems called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's one of my favorite reads at all times, and I would absolutely recommend it to anybody listening to this right now, because it puts things in perspective and helping us understand the two systems that operate our brain, that are in constant almost a constant battle with each other, but every one of us always has a primary go-to. It's like the one that you resonate, or the approach that resonates with you the most, because the doer at the end of the day is nearsighted, they're myopic, they're concerned with using the resources that they have in this moment right now. But the planner, on the other hand, is farsighted. They want to use the overall lifetime utility of the resources they have. So this actually impacts how we view our finances. Obviously, if somebody is a doer, it's more about enjoying the present moment. So they tend to be bigger spenders. They tend to be less of savers towards retirement goals or whatnot. They may save for something that they want to use in the next year, but saving for retirement is really hard for somebody who's very short-sighted. um, so before we delve into this topic a little bit more, I'm interested to hear your thoughts about what I've shared so far about the poem. I'm not sure if it's a poem, but whatever I shared at the beginning, that Omar's mom shared with me actually, and where you see yourself between the dual systems. Are you a doer or a planner? So who would like to go first? I'm curious.
Yeah, I can go first. Oh, that was a beautiful, beautiful poem. Very heartfelt. I resonated with it significantly because I can't believe that it's the end of the year. And we just started the new year together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of very, very real for us to feel. As for the doer or the planner, I am naturally a planner and someone who would like to create a schematic and a very clear understanding. Before I dive into something, I want to make sure that I am incorporating all resources in their best places and making sure that the outcome is achieved to its best capacity before I take a
Yeah.
step forward. And that's where I stand. But I think there's benefits to both, and a balance between the two is very necessary. I can't wait to hear more about what you have to say, Asil.
Absolutely. I could actually have told you this about yourself. This is the interesting thing about our friendship, is that we are very, very different. Because Brian, I'm going to hear from you shortly, but because this is connected to what Omar is saying, I'm a doer. And you know this about me, Omar, too, because like Omar, sometimes we discuss things I want to do, or things that are related, but like shared between us. And I jump on it and I do it right away. And I think when I reflect on that, whatever your personality is, it's a combination between the environment you grew up in, but also your brain wired that way biologically. So it's not always about things that you acquired from experience. There's biological reasons to why you operate the way you do. And if I was to reflect on my childhood, I grew up in a very unstable environment where the future was never guaranteed. And I think that contributes to why this is a trait. And I see it in all my family. I think a lot of my family struggles with impulsiveness, impulsivity, acting without necessarily taking the future into consideration. And I know that a big part of it is because of the environment we grew up in. When you have an unstable future, you want to make the most out of the present, and you just want to act right away. So I know that is a factor of that. So Brian, share with us what's on your mind with this.
Wow, this is such a rich topic to dive into, and what a great way to start off the new year. It's so timely to be looking at this. That's the first thing I thought with the poem as you were reading it, is just like, oh my God, this is so perfect, right? I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's just another month, it's just another time of the year. However, it is a time of year when often we do start to look at this and reflect and start to think about, oh, what did I accomplish and what do I want to accomplish? But so many of us, myself included, do the I'll do it after, like you talked about. So I think that is so poignant to start off the new year with that idea. I am a clear planner. I come from a household of long-term planners. It's pretty crazy, and so because of that, yeah, that's my natural tendency, is to be like that. But as Omar was talking about, I think also because both of my parents were so much like that, I'm very clear on what the limits are of just having that way of being, right?
Mhm.
So my parents would always sacrifice the present for something in the future. And I know that they missed out on things because of that. And don't get me wrong, I still had a great childhood and we did a lot of great stuff, but I just saw that my parents were willing to do that. And then especially in their older years, you know, kind of my dad, before he died, he didn't say he had regrets, but he did say, if I could do it over again, I would do some things differently. And I think he would have been less of the planner and more of the doer in his life. So because of that, I'm trying to incorporate a balance into my life and be, you know, still be a planner. I'll always be that, but then take more action in the present moment and stop putting things off. So great topic, Asil. Please continue.
Absolutely. So here are some things to take into consideration because I agree with both of you that balance is key. Like I was saying, essentially, us humans are concerned at the end of the day with our utility of resources. We want to make the most out of what we have. It's just that we view things differently. The doer wants to make the most of what they have right here, right now, versus the planner wants to make the most of what they have in the future, and they want to look into their overall utility of life versus momentarily utilities in that sense. So that's where things shift in people's mind and therefore their behaviors. So one of the research that I was reading suggested that for a doer, one of the things they can do is to actually start picturing their future self. Because once they actually visualize what that future self looks like, they're gonna be more prone to postpone consuming their current resources in favor for saving for future times. So there's actually a study by Hirschfield that was done in 2011 that started manipulating the digital image of somebody. Like you would take a picture of yourself and they would manipulate it to create a senior version of that. So if you're somebody in your 30s, they would show you your face as if you were a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old or whatever. And that image alone helped reframe the advantages of savings for the future. That specific study was talking about saving habits. And because people had a general hard time saving for the future, they were trying to figure out what tools can we create for especially doers to help them become a little bit more future oriented rather than living impulsively and spontaneously in the moment. And just tricking the brain to start visually seeing your future self can alter the behavior and reframe the attitudes around that. So one of the things I recommend for people listening to this podcast right now that are doers to start incorporating practices of this nature into the routine. And what that would look like is I do this myself. I always think about my future self. Whether you wanna write it down and journal, like what do I see myself in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, whether you want to create a vision board and look at different pictures and images about the future, the future that you're creating. um, I think Bernard Shaw said the best. I can't remember the quote now, but something along the lines like, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." I think Brian, you said that earlier today, but it's something that I also is also something I always remember. And that's one thing that the doer can start doing is to incorporate meditation and visualization within their day and journaling, so that the future self is not something that is just abstract for them, but it becomes tangible. And when something becomes tangible, your behavior would follow. So that's one approach for that. Now for planners, on the other hand, who are very concerned. Well, before I jump into planners, what are some of your thoughts about that? What do you do when you deal, since you're planners, you probably have doers in your lives. How do you deal with it when you're conflicted with a doer, or when you find yourself either a client or somebody in your surroundings that is just impulsive? How do you approach that right now?
I was thinking about this as you were talking about it, because a lot of my clients, I work with a lot of couples, I believe that a couple should be on the same financial path together and working on this stuff together. So I work with couples. And it's interesting to me, the number of couples that I wind up working with where one is a planner and one is a doer. I call them, one is the gas and one is the brake in the car, right? One of them is ready to go, ready to stomp on the gas and take off and start doing things. And the other one's like, whoa, whoa, and thinking about the future. And it actually makes for a great balance. Often people think this is going to be to their detriment, but it actually can be an advantage when people are able to manage it and have open communication and both parties are being respected and they're coming up with a way to do this together. So I actually think, like you said, confronted with a doer as a planner, it can be confronting and it can be hard if they're pushing all the time. But if I think about it like that, with that perspective of like, I would never get into a car that only had a gas pedal, right? Can you imagine driving a car with no brakes, right? How scary that would be. On the other side, what's the point of getting into a car that only has brakes and doesn't have a gas pedal? You're not going to go anywhere unless you live on a hill, right? So I've always tried to look at it like that it's a great balance and coach couples on that of, no, this is actually perfect because both of you then can enhance the other, but find that balance.
Absolutely. And there's a big difference between taking action and being in motion. Sometimes we mistake the act of doing with progress, and these are very different things. That's why I also suggest as a tool for people to implement is to have measurable things that they can mark their progress towards versus just being fooled by the fact that they're in motion, because we easily can think that we're very busy and that we're doing a lot, when in reality there's not much progress being done by our actions. So it's very important for doers to be mindful about the fact that being busy and being always in motion doesn't necessarily mean that you're creating any progress in your life. And one way to balance that is to start putting measurements to what this progress would look like for you.
It's funny you say that, Asil, because as a planner, that's exactly like, it's not going to take very long before I get to the question of if I'm, with a doer and they're in the middle, I'll be like, where is this headed? Where are we going? What are we going to achieve? What's the result going to be, right? Like that's immediately where I go to. And so that's the advantage that I can bring to a doer, and they can help me with the actually taking action. I can't tell you how many times I've been in like a course or a program or whatever, and like we'll get, they'll be like, hey, this is something that you can build yourself. And I'll go away and think about it for a week. And the doers have already implemented it and they're already getting results. And I'm all right. So they push me to take more action. So yeah, great point.
I'm interested in hearing, Omar, and we're going to conclude soon because these topics are juicy and we can go on forever, but we have to be mindful of the time. Yes, Omar.
Yeah, so amazing topic. I was thinking about the same thing. I've noticed some of our clients and the dynamic that they share between them. And generally, I think that the planners, just being a planner, I understand what it is that causes the hesitation to do is the need to have certainty and clarity in the direction that you're heading. You don't want to get stuck in booby traps or or fall into certain situations that you could have avoided if you had the time to just take a look and kind of assess the situation. So being a planner, I know that I've also dealt with this, and it's been very successful for me with some of my teammates and also with some of the clients that we've had, as I tend to tell them to meet me at the present moment of understanding where I stand or what I'm trying, or the communication that I'm trying to relay really is, before we start contributing and doing and moving forward. Because it's scary enough for a planner to take action on their own. It's even scarier when there's two people. Now you're planning for your action, but you're also planning for the other person. There's more uncertainty, there's more vagueness, there's more chance of lack of clarity. So one thing that's really helped, again, was that understand where we're at right now, get a good understanding, ask a lot of very good questions. And after you have that understanding, then then that'll give the planner the peace of mind to want to start doing, versus holding in the brakes and gripping the entire movement.
Absolutely. So to summarize some of the tools that I shared, for the doers, it's helpful for you to start creating rituals that help you visualize that future, visualize your future self, and become excited about what that looks like for you versus it being a very abstract idea. And to actually create milestones that you want to achieve and to measure your progress in concrete ways. As far as the planner is concerned, similar things apply as far as progress and measurement, because you want to start scheduling your action and taking action versus being stuck in that planning phase, and start picking dates and scheduling things that you want to get done. There's a saying that goes, if something is not scheduled, it's not going to be done. And for a planner, it's very helpful to start translating these ideas into action steps and measurement towards what progress also looks like. So these are just very general tools that anybody can start employing today. But the idea is reflect on your system, your primary system, so that you get more self-awareness on which one you gravitate to naturally, and also reflect on why that system is the one primary for you. It could be a result of your upbringing, the environment you grew up in. And despite the things that we can reflect on, sometimes it's also a combination of biological factors. Having said that, I hope this was helpful in increasing your self-awareness and giving you some tools to navigate these interesting things with, because ultimately starting a new year, we're all driven by, not necessarily all, but hopefully we have some hope that this year would be better than the year that passed, and that progress is just the direction we're heading towards in life. So I wish everybody a great new year ahead, and I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.